Hey guys, welcome back to Ranking the Fall DLC Part 2. Again with SpongeBob, I guess to make it feel more consistent. Sorry I forgot to actually add timestamps in my last video. I don't know how that one slipped my mind, even though in the video I actually showed you flashcards. Letting you know, I really wish I had another piece of paper that probably had the times on them so I can actually save on paper, but I guess I'm just a moron. Sometimes I have critical thinking skills, and other times I just think it's out. But to cut it shortly, and this intro might be a lot shorter than the first one, we're going to go immediately to number 9. Nuka World. I probably should have checked the video. Okay. So we got Nuka World, basically the DLC that the pit inspired. Actually, I can just do this. Ugh. Yeah, Nuka World. I don't actually hate Nuka World. But on my version of Fallout 4, Nuka World's the only DLC that actually works. Since Far Harbor, for me, actually always crashes. We're going to talk about that a little later. But Nuka World is actually pretty decent. It has an AK, which I guess the game was actually lacking assault rifles because you had the combat rifle and the assault rifle. It's supposed to be called a machine gun, but I think the R91 might have actually came back. But of course, like Fallout 4, there's a bunch of problems with it. The AK is left-handed. The story's basically a repeat, except it has a different ending. Instead of the raiders going, "We need a cure for this disease," holy crap. And the raiders going, "Yeah, we need a cure of disease." It's basically like, hey, let's take over this, basically a theme park, Disney World. And there's 3 groups of raiders instead of 1, which I guess is a little original. It's basically the pit, but lighter toned. You basically have the disciples, the pack, and the operators. I barely remember that one. There could have actually been more opportunity for that. I can actually probably make a video about all the missed opportunities in Nuka World. Like, there could have actually been 2 more groups of raiders. The park could have been bigger. I don't know why Bradburn was shoved in there. And the most annoying NPC was a character from Fallout 3 no one asked for. I think there could have actually been like a Raider Knights. There could have been like people based off greed. So have something like the 7 Deadly Sins, but down to 5. Just asking. But yeah, there's Gunners in there, which is basically a poor man's version of the Narc Company from Fallout 3. There's Super Mutants, barely. I think I only saw 1 encounter. There's Gator Claws, which is a Death Claw. I'll just tell you, not really much is original here. And I think I've only beat it once. I had multiple playthroughs of Fallout 4, just letting you know I actually played it since 2016, a lot. And yeah, I only beat it once. Nuka World it's not hard at all, it's just confusing, because, check my eyebrows. It's kind of confusing, because basically, you run around, do all this radar work, it takes a long time to freaking, back off. Also, it's 65 degrees instead of 41, so you don't see anything come out of my breath. It's confusing, you have to run around, do some dumb quests, and it's that. I think the only fun area of Nuka World is like when you go past the actual thing. And you go to the outliers, since why is that such a good thing? There's other raiders, there's actually a Mirelurk Queen, and with M's abominations, you have the Mirelurk Emperor too. You got a couple fun areas. The Nuka Cola factory with the Quantum, that was not fun at all. It was very infuriating for no reason. I was about to compare it to Dead Money, but it doesn't really do much, except for the fact that it's just terrible. You run around, it's boring, you get confused, most of the stuff doesn't make sense. It's just a broken, crappy mess. But let's end that topic prematurely with Honest Hearts. So Honest Hearts is actually a pretty good DLC. My favorite part was Joshua Graham and the Christian undertones, which is pretty good. And it also added the 1911 and the Thompson to the Fallout series. Again. But we're not going to count the 2D era like Fallout 1, 2, Tactics, and Brotherhood of Steel. Let's just pretend Fallout 3 is at the starting point. There was no 45 in that game, apparently. And the Thompson came back in Fallout 4, it came back worse. But enough of the other games. Honest Hearts is actually a pretty good DLC. I would actually not recommend doing it extremely early, like I did my second playthrough and probably first playthrough. I don't know which DLC was the first one. But I remember like the second playthrough, which I started like I think this last week, and I was playing on as hearts, and it gets abnormally hard at certain points. There's a couple of difficulty spikes like there is in Dead Money, but these are actually a lot more tolerable. So you don't have a collar on you, and the weapons are actually pretty decent. You got the 45 pistol, which is pretty good. You got the Light and Shining Darkness, which is amazing. You got a 45 SMG, which is nearly one of the most powerful SMGs in the game. I think the only exactly botherance with it is the odd difficulty spikes with the creatures, because there's a green gecko, and if you actually go there early, and basically you're in the early game, and you only see like normal geckos, no yellow ones or no fire spin ones. These green geckos abnormally hit really hard. It's like a stream runs up to you and punches you. And that's basically how it is. The green gecko's really strong, but I'm kind of thinking it should have been more like a yellow gecko. There's Cazadors, which is actually one of the only 2 DLCs that have it, other than Overworld Blues. I got some on my phone. So, I think there's Yaogwai, which aren't that much of a problem unless you decide to go unarmed, which is terrible. You got basically Yaogwai, Cazadors, green geckos, and that's basically all the creatures you have to worry about. I think in my second playthrough, I straight up ran out of stim packs and like other healing materials. And I was attacking one of the white, let's call them white claws. So I attacked one of their bases and I straight up was out of supplies. I'm like, oh crap. And I basically nearly died. I actually killed them all, which is pretty much a miracle. I would actually recommend that you do any DLC in Fallout New Vegas like a little bit later, like past level 10. And so I beat just letting you know, I beat all the DLCs a second time. And Honest Hearts actually is a pretty good ending. At both times I've sided with Joshua Graham. We came over, salted my wounds, I killed him, and it basically was the same ending. I don't think I really changed much in it, other than the fact I know how to navigate the DLCs now. I think it's kind of odd that in my like year and a half of straight up playing Fallout 3 New Vegas, I understand the game fully now. At first I kind of did dumb mistakes and I didn't even know what to do with it, but I'm pretty good now. So Honest Hearts, it's got a decent map actually. It was more vibrant. It's basically it's the Zion Canyon in Utah, and you just run around and just see how cool it is. It's got some highs and some lows, and I think if you accidentally slip off, you're gonna die. I don't think I actually went to the Fist of She the second time. I'll try going with it. But that's all I have to say about that DLC. We'll go to our next one, which is Far Harbor. One sec. Far Harbor. Yeah, Far Harbor. This is actually supposedly the best Fallout 4 DLC. Give me a minute, I gotta stack these papers. Far Harbor is actually a pretty good DLC from what I heard. Everybody said it was like the best thing in the world. That what you do in Far Harbor affects more than it does in the base game. I only beat the base game of Fallout 4 once, and after that I just had a bunch of modded playthroughs. I think I tried beating it a couple times, but Boston always crashes. Yeah, but about Far Harbor, I think I actually almost read the wrong card. Yeah, Far Harbor, you basically go to this little dock thing. It's basically a copy of Point Lookout, but it does a couple things, right? It adds a lever action rifle, an actual Volkssturmgewehr, which I'm actually glad made an appearance. Just letting you know it's windy, that's why my hair did that. And a harpoon gun. It's actually kind of cool to go to Far Harbor. I remember the first time I played it, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. I don't know if I nearly beat the story. I never actually got to the end. I only got like really close, and then I guess something happened. I forgot. Well, I think it's actually a pretty good DLC. It's got a nice vast map, good music. The problem is the fog that makes the game crash. I think the dumbest thing, like after my probably 5th playthrough, I go to Far Harbor, and if I go past the dock by like basically 5 feet, my game crashes. It is the dumbest thing in the world. I don't know why Far Harbor crashes so much, but it's Bethesda. When they make a game, it crashes. It's basically like a woman driving. But other than that, Far Harbor actually has a couple good stories. It's like Fallout 3 where you actually have the children of Adam being passive to you. unless you talk crap about them. I actually got that one blown up in the first time I went there. There's Acadia, which is basically the Institute done right, or railroad mix. It's like an Institute railroad mix. And then you got Far Harbor, which actually was originally Bar Harbor, but I guess just like Novak, the sign kind of rotted off and it became an F. What I heard from other people is the fact that that DLC is supposed to be like the best one in the game, and I can't actually play it. So that's just to screw me in a half. But we're going to go to our next DLC on the list, the one that actually inspired Far Harbor, Point Lookout. I actually do like this one. I actually beat it twice, just like I did. So basically, if you want a little bit of context on if I've beaten all the DLC, the only ones I didn't beat was the Fallout 4 ones, and I've been playing that game for literally 5 years. And, yeah. So I basically beat all the DLCs for Fallout 3 and New Vegas twice. Yeah. But about Point Lookout, it's actually pretty neat. It's like Far Harbor, but done a little bit better on some paces. Not about factions, that's just kind of boring. You basically go to Maryland, which looks more like Alabama from what I actually play. You meet the inbred locals. You meet a girl named Desdemona. And he basically has this beef with a brain, which is very unique and wacky. It seems more like you're like playing a B horror movie in the 50s. And the red SpongeBob. Got him back again. So, in Point Lookout, they actually do bring a lever action rifle, even though Fallout 3 only had one in the base game. But they actually brought an actual lever action rifle called, yeah, I guess just a lever action rifle. There's a backwater rifle, which is apparently better. And so they bring this one in, unlike the Far Harbor one. It doesn't take 45-70, it takes 10mm. And I just think that makes a more balanced rifle. And also the big difference is it has 10 rounds instead of 5 like the Far Harbor one. It's just an overall superior gun. You cock it, and you actually reload it like how it's supposed to be reloaded, and not just on the left, like everything in Fallout 4. Maybe Todd Howard kind of went on a drug trip and never recovered. But yeah. Point Lookout also actually is it's actually one of the few, probably the only Fallout DLC so far that has a shotgun in it. It's really lacking, but yeah, it's a double barrel, which is pretty good. I think there's technically only 2 weapons. But other than that, it's actually a pretty fun DLC. You run around, it's basically like having Wild Wasteland as a DLC. You go on this drug trip where you eat basically beans, and you lose your mind, you get a couple perks, they're basically the size of a chair, and you see your dead mom, the freaking screen almost cuts out, and it sounds like someone died. And I'm like, okay, now I know how it feels. That's pretty weird. And that's kind of how it is. I was kind of fond of it. Actually, both endings. I killed the brain, then killed Desmond after he just talked crap to me. I'm like, I'm not taking yours anymore, bud. It's actually a pretty good DLC, honestly. But other than just me rambling like a feminist comedian, I'm going to go with the last one on this list so far. Number 5, Operation Anchorage. Operation Anchorage is basically pretty good DLC. We're gonna try to stop ranting, but Operation Anchorage, this is basically where you have a simulation. It actually has a new group of faction, not so original, but it's called the Brotherhood Outcasts. They look cool though. But the difference is I actually watched a video a couple months ago, and they talked about how the Outcasts were technically the real Brotherhood, since if you actually played the first and second game in New Vegas, they're technophiles. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but I'm just gonna say it means that they're very obsessed with technology and preserving it and keeping it to themselves. But you basically follow the Brotherhood Outcasts, and you have to do this simulation. It's a really short DLC, I'll tell you that. You basically you get in this white trauma suit, and you sit into this VR machine, and you actually go to Operation Anchorage, which is the DLC's name, in Anchorage, Alaska. I never even knew that until I actually looked it up for something else. And you basically play through, I guess, 3-4 missions, I think. Maybe 5. It's actually really cool because there's a tank inside. Because in Fallout games, you really don't see vehicles anymore. And there was a whole tank. It actually worked in VATS too. And I'm like, that's pretty neat. And you basically play as an American soldier fighting the Chinese in Operation Anchorage. And the first one, it starts as basically any other stealth game like 007. It actually does have that feel. And yeah, you basically crap. What was it again? Oh yeah, you're on the side of a cliff apparently. Your partner climbs upwards, which I'd never seen in the game. And you go around with a silence pistol, just snipe killing people. You just basically go behind them. You get up to the point, you go to this building, he basically comes in through the ceiling. Oh crap, I didn't see you there. I'm like, okay. We go around, I think we blow up some, and then after a bit you go to this one hub area, which is basically a military base that's somehow that close to the Chinese. To their military base. In real life they both would have straight up bombed each other. But you walk around, you pick 3 locations to go to. You get one where you destroy the tanks, you go to another where you destroy the reinforcements and stealth technology, and after that you go to this freaking field, this minefield where it disables power armor. You turn off the minefield and they go over and you kill the leader of the Chinese apparently. You kill them, the simulation ends, and actually I think you I'm getting to it. Yeah, you get out of the simulation and you're like, okay. And after you beat it, there's this room that they were basically trying to open. It opens up after beating the simulation. And as soon as you walk into the room, you pick up a couple stuff like I did. My first playthrough, this one was pretty weird. Everybody died. It looked like they all revolted on me. I'm like, what is going on here? But the second playthrough, I actually got a lot more context. So there's basically 2 leaders of the outcasts. And one of them tried killing the other one for the stuff. I ended up killing them people. One of the scribes died. I'm like, what happened here? I talked to the guy and he's like, I don't know, I think I don't know, he just went crazy. I'm like, yeah, you would. Y'all just went crazy for some stupid technology. I think you get a Gauss rifle and a bunch of other equipment from the DLC. You only use it in the simulation and then it disappears. Then you get in that room. It's kind of a cheap way of doing it since you only play a simulation, you open a room and get all your stuff and leave. There's nothing else with them. It's kind of like Automatron in a weird way, except Automatron actually had at least one more quest before it ended. But Operation Anchorage is just pretty short. I think it's actually the shortest DLC. But thanks for watching, everybody. I'm sorry I kind of stammered, stuttered, and just probably blanked out a bit because it's really windy and the grass looks pretty good. Yeah, I know I forgot a couple things. I hope this time I can just remember to put timestamps in. But make sure to like, subscribe, like a couple people do, share. I don't know who exactly you're going to share it to, your goldfish.